It's the M.L.M for the Soul channel, and if you've never watched my channel before, then definitely check out my first video, because on there I do explain what exactly is M.L.M for the soul and what I'm doing. And I do have a new topic for today, but before I begin, I would like to say that may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem, and also to thank those people who have been a great guidance for me along my journey. They are Rabbi Laser Brody, Rabbi Shalom Arash, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, and Rabbi Eli Mansour. And I will have links to their sites below this video so you can check them out as well. So today's topic is called slave mentality. Now, how did I come up with this? So we are in the midst of the holiday of Pesach, Passover. Today is actually the 17th of Nisan, and it's also the 17th of April, 2014. And I have my Haggadah here. This is actually a Haggadah I had when I was a child, and my name is written in Hebrew from one of my rabbis, who was a wonderful teacher, Rabbi Mandel. May his neshama have an aliyah. He was such a wonderful teacher, and when I was in elementary school, and I learned how to write Hebrew script from him. So that was one of the gifts he gave me, but he was a wonderful person as well. So as I was reading the Haggadah, and going through the Seder, we have the 4 questions, and then afterwards we get the answer. Why did we do all these things? Because we were Avdim, Hayinu, Lefra'ah, Bמצרים. We were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, and then Hashem brought us out from there with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. And if he had not brought us out, then we, our children and children's children, might have still been enslaved to Pharaoh in Egypt. And then we're supposed to talk about the whole story. So the way I see it is the world that we're living in today is perhaps a different type of a slavery or slave mentality. I do not think that we're free. And we actually could be living in a similar way. It's not Egypt, it's United States. It's a different type of slavery, but the slave mentality is also the fact that we are slaves, so to speak, to certain things in life, whether it be certain material, and I'm talking about material things. Now, the only slavery, quote unquote, not, ball and chain type slavery, would be that we're attached like glue to Hashem and the Torah. That's the only type of slavery that would actually be okay to follow, because you're not harming yourself, you're actually only benefiting yourself. So when I say slave mentality, we're slaves to many different things, whether it's anything material you can think of. It could be food, it could be clothing, it could be cars, it could be jewelry, it could be watches, it could be shoes, it could be ties, like specific things within that realm. Certain things you collect, vacations, boats, cars, any other kind of toys that you like, that you collect, anything that you consider yourself that you can't be without. Well, of course we need to eat, but we don't need to overeat, Of course, and I shouldn't say of course, but yes, we need to eat. Some people eat very small amounts. Yes, we need a place to live, but it doesn't mean we need a 500-room mansion or compound with 20 servants and 100 bedrooms and 50 bathrooms. So there's a limit. So that's why I don't consider us free, because we are still attached so much to the material side of life. And the more we have that, the harder it is to really thrive spiritually. So the idea is to lessen the amount of material possessions you have, because the other part of it too, like I say, this is like in Egypt, because when the Mashiach comes speedily in our days, we're kind of living that similar life like in Egypt. We're slaves to life, to work. They say you're a slave to the grind, the daily grind of what you have to do to make a living. And if you're quote unquote doing that, then you're not really completing what your purpose is here for life, because our purpose is not to just work hard and make a lot of money. We're a slave to that, or most people are. But if you really do what you're supposed to be doing here, is then that is not the purpose. The purpose is to correct yourself. The purpose is to whatever character traits that need to be worked on should be corrected, so that we will have the opportunity and the ability to receive Hashem's greatness in the world to come, or to receive the good that we deserve for doing what we're supposed to do on this earth. And so that's something that I came to me from really getting into the Haggadah and thinking about what I've seen around me, what I've seen in the world around me, even unfortunately, very unfortunately, in the religious or frum communities, Jewish communities, that people are just so attached to all their stuff and all these things that really don't matter. And I have to just quote Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi from DivineInformation.com, because he would say, he's talk about the I thing, the iPhone, the iPad, the iPod, I, everything is I. Everything is like, it's about you. Everything, it's like you're attached to it. I understand that there can be a purpose to some of those products, but it shouldn't be that they rule your life, because you become slaves to them. Basically, they're your king, so to speak, and you're the slave, and that's really not okay. When they're used for a good purpose and they have a place in the world, meaning they're doing something to make the world better, to make the world a more spiritual and holy place, and yes, they have a place. But if you're just using it to look at who knows what kind of sites and always be doing things that are not proper, then that's a problem. So the less is more. In order to have more room, so to speak, in your life for the spirituality, you have to not be so attached to material. You have to let go of things. You have to eliminate them, because they're just holding you back from achieving what you really can do. So we're still Avadim, Hayinu, B'Mitzrayim. This is a different type of Mitzrayim. We are still slaves. We are still having a hard time. Everyone has their own stuff that they are dealing with. Some less than others. Some have achieved, the way to let go of certain things, or because they have that understanding finally. And some people get it and some people don't. And sometimes you see people who just are still, they hear it 100 times about letting go, and for some reason there's a block that they just can't do it. I know for me personally, and I guess this has always been something for me, and I also want to say that all these videos that I do, I'm talking to myself. Like Rabbi Mizrahi would say, I'm talking to myself, and hopefully other people will hear it, what I'm saying. But I'm doing this for my own benefit. So what I want to say is, like, for me, I found that I have been able to pay attention to when I hear something and it makes sense. Like now, things are really filtering in and really adhering to me, that they make sense and I understand them, and it's like, wow, okay, this is not important to me anymore. It has no basis for me to continue to hold on to it. What I say is, one of the things I say for myself is this going to benefit me in the end? Does this serve me in some way? Will it get me somewhere? Of course, I'm not perfect. I hold on to things too. Probably I should let go of, but I try to limit that to as much as possible. Like, for example, this is something just, not so important that it's causing you to be a slave, but the idea is, like, if you have things from years ago that you really don't need, you don't ever look at, and maybe try to read through them if you can. If it's too much, just let it go. because the more you release, the more there's room for the important stuff, the more there's room for your spiritual growth, because that's ultimately what is going to matter in the end. Everything else is really not important. It's superficial. It's not going to last. It's finite. We want to work towards the infinite. We want to work towards what is going to give us the most results in the end. So what that is our spiritual growth, our spiritual, elevation. We need to do everything we can to get away from the slave mentality. As hard as it is, it's so important to have less is more. When you look at people in the world who have very little, most of the time they're actually really happy. Because when you think about it, the more you have, the more you want more, or the more you get kind of afraid that someone's going to take it from you. You're always looking over your shoulder. For example, if you have a lot of money, and then you're like, oh my gosh, is someone stealing it? Is it safe in the bank? Should I hide it under my mattress? Or should I spend it on stuff? When I spend it, and then I want more, and then I don't have it, and and I have to pay this one and that one, and the taxes and this, and maybe I should have an offshore account so nobody knows I have the money. But then in the end, all that money, if you don't use it properly, is just a waste. It has no value because you haven't used it for something good. So having all that doesn't really give you a sense of satisfaction. So the idea is you see these people who have so little, they live on so little, and they're so happy, they have so much joy in them, you could see it radiating out of them, and it's so simple, and it's so pure, and it's so beautiful to see. And we can learn a lot from that we really need so little to make us happy. And the more that we do need is the more spirituality, the more Torah, the more connection to Hashem. That's really going to give us the most in life, and life meaning our afterlife. So that's what we have to really strive for. So again, during this holiday of Pesach, let's try to think about that more. Let's try to really work on that. And I hope and pray with everyone working together to do more in the spiritual realm of their lives, that we do merit to live and see the coming of the Mashiach speedily in our days, and the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. Thanks for watching.